AI is literally everywhere right now, but for many people, it still feels intimidating or overhyped. What if instead of replacing creativity, I tell you, AI could actually support it? Because today we are exploring how AI can become a sort of a practical partner in meaningful and human centered work. Welcome to AI Biz, where we explore how artificial intelligence shows up in real work, real businesses, and real life. And we'll try to cut the jargons and the buzzwords around AI and the overwhelm as well. I'm your host, Sayan, and today I'm joined by Jackie Pellegrin, an instructional designer, author, college professor, and a podcast host with nearly 2 decades of experience in higher education and learning design. Jackie hosts Designing with Love, where she helps educators and professionals create learning experiences that are engaging, accessible, and effective as well. In this episode, we are going to be talking about how she utilizes AI tech in her work in practical, grounded ways that actually enhance creativity rather than replace it. So it's going to be a very practical conversation for all of you who are joining to this right now. So yeah, let's dig into it straight away. So, Jackie, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here with me today. And, you know, I'm excited to have this conversation, particularly about how you use AI in your workflow. So, welcome to the show again.
Great. Thank you, Sayan. I appreciate it. I'm so glad that we got to connect, and I'm glad to be on this show to talk about AI and how it's shaping every part of our work today.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, so I would love to start here. That when AI tools started becoming widely accessible, so there's this um history of AI that was first, I believe, uh, brought as expert agents back in, I believe, 1980s, mid 80s to 90s.
Right.
But so it has been in the ecosystem since then, right? But only recently, I mean, we have been made aware around the tools, around us. So, what was your initial reaction as someone deeply rooted in human-centered learning?
Yes, at first it was, and I think it's still a cautious optimism that I have because it's come
Yeah.
upon us. Like you said, it's been around for a while in like those agents and customer service and things like that, but it was kind of hidden, wasn't really something that was out in the forefront and in our face kind of. So when it came along, because I work in, as you mentioned, in higher education, and I do curriculum development. So when it started becoming an initiative where it started coming from the top down, like from senior vice president in our area down to our director, and they're like, okay, we need to start thinking about how we can utilize AI in curriculum development, not to replace what we do, but to help us be more efficient in our work. Then I thought, okay, but is that gonna then the fear started coming from all the people in my department, editors and
Yeah.
curriculum developers, myself as an instructional designer, like, "Wait a minute, is that gonna replace what we do? And does that mean we don't need subject matter experts anymore, down the road?" So there was this fear that started happening in my department all across the board, everybody. But I didn't have that fear. It was more of like, "Whoa, hold it here. What's happening? And what is all of this about?" So
Yeah.
it was a mixture of curiosity, but then it was also like, okay, let's hold the brakes a little bit and see what is this going to look like, right? So definitely cautious optimism, and I still do that even though I use it every day. Because I use it in my curriculum work. I use it as an instructor with my students because I'm trying to prepare them for the workforce and what that looks like. And then I also use it in my podcast, and I used it to
Right.
help write my book too. So yeah, so it's but I utilize it as my creative partner more than anything. So I'm still, the output that it gives me, I still look at it with a critical eye, and I'm always like, no, didn't quite get that right. So let's continue working with that. So I don't take the initial output and go with it. So there's always that human critical eye to it. Always. Yep. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
an
So,
important
so
part of it.
So we'll come to how you particularly use AIs in the ways you mentioned in a little while, but I think overall the openness really stands out to me because I think uh, what you shared is really valid. So I imagine this fear of AI replacing you back when it came out, the LLMs, the buzzwords that were there in, was it 2021, 2022, sometime around COVID, I believe.
Yep.
And so there's this misconception, I would say, that I think AI makes work feel less personal or less creative. So, from your particular experience, what do you think people misunderstand about using AI in instructional design and education now? Now, of course, when you say subject matter experts, I believe they would still be required, right? Because well, who's going to train that LLM on that data, right? I mean, you still need subject matter experts to fine tune the data, right? And correct the data, correct the output, not the data, sorry. So, I mean, okay, that part is there. That part is understood that you would still require people. But what do you think people misunderstand the most about AI in your field, particularly in the educational field?
Yeah, so what's very interesting is that as instructional designers and curriculum developers, we go into, say, a project, course development. So for example, my experience is in business marketing, but yet I work on curriculum for counseling and social work, like the social sciences area. I'm not a licensed counselor, right? So I don't have that expertise. That's why we utilize our subject matter experts. So when I'm inputting those questions and those prompts into AI, I'm asking it, okay, so does this professional standard, does it fit this assignment? What can we do to make this assignment better? But at the end of the day, I'm still looking at the subject matter experts to say, okay, this is what AI had informed us. What would be a good assignment or a good discussion question? But then I'm always having them look at it and say, did AI miss the mark or not? Because what we're noticing, even with our internal language learning model, because we have an internal model that we use, which it uses GPT technology, but it's internal because then it keeps all of our curriculum in-house, right? So we don't use
Right.
ChatGPT or anything. But what we notice is that it's just like any language learning model. It's going to give you fluff. It's going to repeat things, but in a different way. So that's why the subject matter experts in the faculty are so important because they look for those nuanced things that they're like, wait, this is saying kind of the same thing, but it's repeating. And then that's when they can take the fluff out, and I've had that happen quite a bit, or it hallucinates and it makes up things. So, it's like, yeah, they
Yeah.
can look for those things and those nuances that I wouldn't know as an instructional designer, so it's very interesting, and even, like, in nursing is a very complex subject field, and there's curriculum developers that don't know about nursing. They don't know about all the different nuances of that, and so I've had conversations with some of the other instructional designers, and what we're noticing is that the curriculum is actually not as high quality as it should be because what the curriculum developers are doing is they're taking AI for what it is, not understanding the subject matter and not challenging
Mm,
the faculty to
yeah.
look at it. So they're putting curriculum out there that AI created that's not, necessarily the best. So it's very interesting
Yeah.
because we're noticing this pattern where it's like, yeah, let's make sure it's efficient in what we do, but at no time should it replace what we're doing. So it's very interesting conversations that we're having. We're noticing this pattern among our department and we're like, "Oh, okay, we need to make sure that when we train new hires that we're not training them right off the bat with AI and saying, "Here's how you use AI." Let's train them on the type of job that they need to do first, and then once they become familiar with that job, then we add on the technology, the AI, and they can utilize that in the best way because if they're just going to that and not using any critical thinking, it's not gonna it's not gonna serve them, it's not gonna serve the students that we're trying to serve. So, it's very interesting that, we're already starting to see a pattern of that, Cyan, where people in my
Yeah.
in my department are utilizing it, and they're utilizing it in the wrong way, and I'm like, "Oh, no." So we need to because we can teach them prompt engineering all day long, but
Right.
if they don't know, "Okay, this is what the limits of AI are, and this is how I need to properly use it. This is how I need to ethically use it," then you can teach them prompt engineering all day, but it won't help. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's very, very interesting how they're starting to it's not I don't know, I don't wanna say it's laziness, but it's just I don't know if this is happening
Yeah, no, I
across
get it.
industries.
Mm,
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I don't know if this is a pattern that's happening across what you've seen in conversations, but I'm just starting to notice that they're using it, um, as to get things done faster as a shortcut. So maybe it
yeah.
is a little bit
Yeah.
of that laziness thinking, "Oh, AI can do it for me," without
Yeah.
cross-checking it. Yeah, yep. So that's happening in education now. And my students are doing it too. They're utilizing it. They're like, "Oh, it's this DQ is only worth 5 points, so I'll just utilize AI." And I actually saw a discussion post. I can't prove it, but I saw a discussion post, and tell me if you think this is AI or not. So the discussion post had M dashes in it. It had different phrases that were bold, and that's usually an indicator, right? And it
Yeah.
just sounded too good to be something that was, yeah, that she wrote. So I'm like, this sounds like AI. And some of it was repetitive from the beginning to the end. And I'm like, but again, I can't prove it. I have no way of proving that she actually utilized AI and posted it in there. But I could see those little telltale signs. So I've learned to recognize those little signs of AI usage. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot actually shared that I want to, take a moment to reflect upon, but it's kind of
Okay.
crazy. I mean, uh, then there are people, right, who ask for the prompt to take the prompt to prompt it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? There are people like that,
Right.
as well. But with but Jack, you know what? I actually came across a very recent paper that was published by MIT. Um, and it's kind of scary. So we have recently been able to reduce. So there is this architect called a neural network in artificial intelligence, and uh, in a recent study, we have been able to reduce 90% of the parameters of a neural network. So from a dense network to a sparse network, with keeping the accuracy same. So to put it in a nutshell, I mean, what I'm trying to say is with the data that we are generating right now, and by 2030, that would exponentially grow. With such advancements in neural network, there will come a time that the AI models would actually be able to capture the nuances. Now, I'm not saying this today; it will happen like immediately. But what I'm saying is there will be a time. So, again, uh, so I'm a music producer as well, and there's this app called Suno Music, which is apparently like an AI version of creating music. Now, music is something creative, right? But they have basically raised it to a level where that thing is making music that sounds almost like human. And there are a lot of nuances in when I talk about creating music, right? That's one of the most creative things I mean a human can possibly do, right? It's a form of art.
Right.
So it's kind of scary to think about the direction that we are heading into, with the kind of advancement. And there's this buzzword around us about agentic AI that's also coming in the picture. So we till now we're talking about just LLMs, right? Large language models, and there are obviously like some image models as well around us. For example, what was it? The Google uh, uh, Banana Pro something. So I don't exactly remember,
Ooh.
but
Yeah, I know what you're
yeah,
talking about. Yeah, my students have been
yeah,
using that, and their
yeah,
instructional stuff. Yeah, yeah, yep.
yeah. But it's kind of crazy. I mean, we're living in a world where we are trying to make AI sound like human and human more like robots. So that's the irony that has stuck with me. So I came across this post in a forum, and that has stuck with me honestly. So, coming back to the conversation that we were having. Jackie, I'm curious as to how it looks in practice for you? Like, can you walk us through a real example of how you might use AI in a typical project? Whether that's a course design, content creation, or even podcasting.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good question. I love that because what I like to utilize AI for is that that initial iteration, right? To see what are some ideas that I can gather. So usually what we'll do is if we have an existing course where we're looking at, say, we want to make it more of an authentic assignment. So say it's a paper and we're like, they can utilize AI and they can just have the AI write the paper for them. So let's look for ways that we can make it more innovative, more creative, but not just to make it quote unquote AI proof, which I don't really like it calling that AI proof. More of making it to where if the student feels like I don't even want to touch AI, or maybe if I do, I'm going to utilize it in an ethical way. So, but we want to make sure they're career ready, right? And that it's going to be something that they're going to want to do. It's going to give them autonomy. So what I like to do is I like to take that assignment or the discussion question, if it's an assignment, for example, and I just like to put it in our LLM and I like to say, okay, here's the assignment. Here, how can we, here's the objectives and how can we make this more career ready for
Hmm.
the learner, for the student, and it'll give me some ideas, and I'll say, "Give me 2 or 3 ideas," and it'll give me some really good ideas, and so it's really helpful for that. One thing we've been recently doing is, we just got accredited for counseling programs through KCREP, which is a professional organization, so we're switching out our standards in the curriculum from 2016 to 2024, and some of the standards vastly changed, so how do we go about doing that? And sometimes the faculty are struggling with that. So we utilize AI to say, okay, here's the new standard, here's the assignment, and how well does it meet the standard, and what can we do to make it meet the standard? So it's a really good way of just kind of checking things and seeing, okay, where's the curriculum at? What can we do to improve it? And then, of course, we still have the faculty look at it,
Course
revise
fit.
it.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So and so we don't copy anything that is an AI. It doesn't end up in the course, so that's good. We're also trying to do more authentic discussion questions because sometimes I'm noticing that discussion questions are just surface level. If I can put it in AI and I can get a response to that discussion question, then I know students can do it too. So we're trying to make sure to bring about more reflection for them and opportunities for them to not just take it, put it in AI, get an answer, and then put it in the
Hmm.
in the system. So yeah, so we're trying to make sure that we do that too and give them those opportunities. So it's really fun. With podcasting, I'm utilizing it to generate ideas for for my podcast because I do a blend of solo and interview episodes. So for those solo episodes is where I utilize it and I try to get ideas for series and things like that. I'm actually going to be doing one. It's going to be a 12 episode mini series later this year on AI and how it's used in my industry, and how to make instructional designers content. They're going to be content creators. They already are, but giving them that future focus, and getting them ready for what this world is gonna look like, right, with AI. So, it's really exciting. So, I utilized actually ChatGPT to get those ideas. I'm like, "I wanna create a 12-episode series, and here's the series I've done in the past. What are some ideas?" And it was great. ChatGPT gave me some really good ideas on how to approach
Yeah.
that and how to do that. So then I also utilize it for my, interview episodes too. So I take if they're on Podmatch, I take their Podmatch profile, and I, of course, scan it as well on my own, but I utilize ChatGPT to kinda say, "Okay, I've got this interview coming up. Here's what I've got so far for my interview sheet, and can you help me come up with 3 to 5 engaging questions, help me with my intro and my outro." And so it does a really good job, and, yeah, so I utilize it for that too. So it's a lot of fun to see what it comes up with, and it gives me really great ideas along the way. So it's fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Absolutely. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, these tools, I believe one of the best till date, where you can brainstorm about, whatever that is about. But talking about the course design, Jackie, I'm curious.
Right.
Do you think there is a need? So obviously, like the surface level statements and questions, right? So yeah, I mean, the students can easily answer, but um, to ask a follow-up question based on that, do you think there is a particular need to follow a compliance when you're particularly working on a course design using AI, or Or do you think otherwise? I mean,
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of look at that compliance, right? And make sure that we're following that and that we're utilizing the individuals that we need to do in that. And then also,
right,
yeah, because we have different accrediting bodies that we have to adhere to, and making sure that when they come in and they audit us, that not only are we showing collaboration, but we're
right,
showing that we're able to utilize that technology in an ethical manner. So it's not only, we're telling the students here, you need to utilize AI ethically, but we're also practicing what we're saying. So I think it
right,
comes back around full circle. So it's really great when we can actually demonstrate that and show that. So as an instructor, I do that. As an instructional designer, I do that. I show my students every day because I do the work every day, and then I teach the next generation. So I'm always
right.
modeling that behavior in the classroom. And so I think that's so important for my students. So yeah, it's really neat, and I have seen, assignments uh, that direct students to use AI, and this is how they use it, and I've had some students say to me, "I feel like I'm cheating," and I'm like, "Well, that's your ethics coming, into play, and that's
Right.
your conscience telling asking you that." And I've had students actually ask me that, like, "Is it okay if I use it? How many responses
Yeah.
should I get from it?" And I'm like, "You do however comfortable you feel until you get to the point where you can write a good reflection based upon your experience with interacting with the tool." And so it's very interesting. And we actually ask them for screenshots of their conversations. So I actually get to see what they're inputting. Now, sometimes the assignment will say, input this, don't deviate from that input. Like, for example, there's one about situational leadership where they have four different leadership styles. And they have to, so they're acting as the instructional designer, and then the AI is acting as the person in the different readiness style, and they have to coach them through it. So it's really interesting to actually see
Yeah.
AI
Yeah.
act like that individual, like the one that's not confident, right, in their work, and they're like, "I don't know, what should I do?" And you can see the AI actually, you know, stepping into that role. So it's very interesting. One thing Cyan we use it for as well is we actually have these virtual interactive personas that are so for counseling. We started it for counseling, and now they're starting to use it for nursing. But what's really great about that is that the virtual interactive persona is like the client, and then the student acts as the counselor, and they have to have this full on conversation with them, and it records the transcript of the conversation and everything. But I did some testing in the early phases of that when they were sending it through QA and everything, and it had some bugs in it. But that's
Mm.
to be expected, right? You know that knowing technology, that it's going to have bugs that you're going to have to work through. But it was very interesting because one of the individuals, it was all about, addictions. So one of the VIPs had a gambling addiction, and they had set the VIP so that the actual quote unquote client, which was the AI persona, they had set him to where he was, just very shut down and just did not wanna have a conversation. I'm like, "So how are you doing today?" And the AI persona said, I'm just here. I don't wanna be here." And I'm like, "Oh, that sounds like a client that could actually be in real life," that I've heard faculty tell me about and students have told me about. So I'm like, "Wow, that's really interesting." And then I kept
Yeah.
prompting him, and he just kept shutting down more and more, and I kept trying to open him up, and he's like, "Nope, just tell me what I need to get through this." And I'm like, "Wow." I told the developers at the end when I gave my feedback, I'm like, "Yeah, you guys did a good job, but you might wanna soften him up just a little bit because he was a little bit too abrasive, in my opinion." And I think students would get frustrated with that because I don't know, maybe that's really what it would be like, but I'm like, "I don't know. Don't make him too easy, but don't make him too hard either. You gotta kinda, bring him in the middle a little bit." And yeah, make him a little bit tough, but I think he was a little bit too tough. I was like, "Okay, I'm not getting anything out of this persona at all." So, I thought it was really interesting. So, it was kinda cool to kinda see that in action, and, it was fun. So, I'm excited to see
Yeah.
where the university goes with that and what they do in the future, because I think they could use that for, like, interviewing and all kinds of different things, and make it low stakes, make it something where they're practicing those skills and they're doing it in a safe environment for themselves, and they're not doing it with real clients, right? Not, because counseling is just something that, and nursing is something that you have to be very careful, and there's the ethics behind it and patient confidentiality, and so it's really great. Yeah, so I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very interesting.
So I think that's I can see that's where education is going to be going, not just higher education, but I think even like high school and technical training, even maybe, they could have like simulations that they could do, like in other types of fields as well. So I can really see it working well, those types of personas that are AI generated. And again,
Mm.
these look so realistic that you can't even tell that
Right.
it's an AI persona. Yeah. So I think the technology, like you said, is just gonna keep getting better and better, where it's just gonna be like,
Yeah, I mean,
Is that a human or not?"
there's a
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of R&D that's going, pretty much in every field. You talk about any creative field, and it's there. So you talked about interviewing, the tools are there, right?
Right.
You talk about maintaining privacy. It's there. You have edge computing at your hands, at your fingertips right now. So, uh,
Right.
kind of and getting aware, because I think as AI becomes more integrated into our work, I think it's important to ensure as an individual that empathy, accessibility, and human connection, right, stay at the center of what you create. Because even in educational institutes where students are extensively using AI, I think there is a need to involve a moderator and follow compliance, because otherwise this whole thing, this whole um what's the word, the world that we're living in, right, of AI, I think it's just gonna turn heavy on us, right? Because
Right.
that's when we are not gonna think about the aspects of what, why, and how, and we're just gonna be focusing on prompting, and even prompting to take the prompt from the AI, where they
Right.
can fix it, as some of us are already doing. So I think that's an important note to wrap this up on, Jackie. So I
Absolutely.
think AI works best not as a shortcut, but I think as a thoughtful partner, because ultimately it's guided by human insight, intention, and care. So that's what I'm taking away from this conversation.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And I think it's so important, especially in the world of work today and the workforce, that we're preparing those students for it, but also giving them the tools to be able to go into the workforce confident, knowing that, okay, I'm going to go into this job, but that doesn't mean that 2 years, 3 years later down the road, my job is going to be replaced. And where am I going to be in that process? So
Hmm.
also giving them confidence to say, okay, we're giving you the tools and the techniques to be able to
Right.
take what you know, take those skills, but then uh, be able to be innovative. And I think that's so important today. And not just go with the status quo, but really be innovative and use your critical thinking, and don't let the machine take it away from you, because it's
That's
so
true.
important
Yeah.
to keep it. Yeah, exactly. Because in this world, I think people want authenticity more and more now, more I think more now than they ever wanted it before. So I think these human conversations like what we're having are priceless, because people can create AI videos, they can create AI podcasts, but when you lose the human connection,
Absolutely.
you can tell. I think people can start to tell that, oh, this doesn't seem real, and so then you lose them, and it's hard to get them back
Yeah.
when you lose them. So, yep, absolutely,
Right. That's a very important note as well. And this conversation can practically, not practically, I mean theoretically, go on forever. But as minute mark is already coming to the end, I would quickly love to ask Jackie, for listeners who want to learn more about your book, or your upcoming book, or your podcast, where can they find you at?
yeah. So, of course, you can connect with me on Podmatch. So if you're on Podmatch, I love connecting with fellow podcasters on there and being a guest. And I'm also a host, as you mentioned. So I host Designing with Love, which is an educational podcast. So you can find it everywhere that podcasts are. You can also go to my website, designingwithloveblog.com, and I have all kinds of great tools there for anyone that wants to learn more about it. And I talk a lot about AI technologies, so it's great. And they can follow me on LinkedIn as well if they want to connect professionally as well.
Perfect. Dear listeners, I'll include the details in the show notes so you can check them out anytime at your convenience. And with that, we have exceeded today's minute mark on this episode on AI Biz. And thank you everyone for joining and tuning in AI Biz into AI Biz today. And if this conversation shifted how you see AI, I invite you to explore it with curiosity, not with fear, because I guess that's short lived, and that's gonna be short lived. And remember that your human values firmly in the lead. Until next time, keep learning, keep experimenting, and guys, keep it practical. I'll see you in the next one.